Welcome to Game Point. I'm Matt Smith.
And I'm Vernon Tucker, and we're here to discuss everything dealing with sports and pop culture.
This week on Game Point, Matt and Vernon are discussing LeBron's NBA double clutch, if you know what I mean. And what about the black athlete? It seems like he can never put his negative past where it belongs, in the past. And yes, of course, we're talking about the Super Bowl because is Brady better than Jordan? Has he actually surpassed Jordan? And we want to know what's up with the Jay-Z deal. We're going to pull a quick report card on that and much, much more this week. So let's get into it. Vernon, what is on your mind, my brother?
Immediately following the Super Bowl, Byron Leftwich was doing a post-game interview. Byron Leftwich, one of the assistant offensive coaches for the Tampa Bay Bucks, and the reporter asked him, what did he do specifically, the game plan he drew up, to contain or stop Patrick Mahomes? And Byron's response was, that I ain't had nothing to do with that. That was Todd. Todd Bowles was the guy that was responsible for that. But again, it's another instance where these white reporters or white employees, like, they can show up with mediocrity and still get access to the biggest platforms like the Super Bowl and disrespect someone and not even go so far as to apologize for the misunderstanding, Matt, what's been on your mind?
What was on my mind was giving props to the assistant coaches from both teams. As you mentioned, the offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich, the defensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Bucks, Todd Bowles, and also the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. I know they lost, but Eric Bieniemy had a great season. So all of those coaches performed at such a high level. And I know we talk a lot about black coaches getting those head coaching opportunities, and both Byron Leftwich and Eric Bieniemy have not gotten hired or really gotten a lot of looks. So that needs to change. So I'm hoping this performance and this season leads to them getting the opportunities that they deserve.
Matt, I think you're right, man. Like, those guys definitely deserve a lot of credit, man. Much respect to them. Speaking of performances and things that never change, Matt, Tom Goat Brady made it to his 10th Super Bowl, won his 7th in his illustrious career. And I'm hearing a lot of chatter, man. A lot of beat writers are asking if he surpassed Jordan as the greatest athlete of all time. What's your take on that, Matt?
Slow down, people. I think, look, props, kudos to Tom Brady. What he's done is incredible. 10 Super Bowls, 7 rings. I give him the utmost respect. And if we want to call him the greatest quarterback of all time, the GOAT of quarterbacks, or even if you want to call him the greatest NFL football player of all time, I think that's all fair game. But Michael Jordan, that's a different animal. What he did on the basketball court, being a two-way player, playing offense and defense and dominating, I don't think you can compare. He won 6 titles out of 6 appearances. He won a couple gold medals in the Olympics. He won a title in college. He's a winner. Now, his career wasn't as long as Tom Brady's, but to me, I think we saw his greatness, and I don't think Brady has surpassed that, even though the ring count is amazing.
May I have this dance, Matt?
Absolutely.
May I have this particular dance? The Last Dance, right? We all saw The Last Dance, the 10-part documentary where they went through the Bulls' final championship run. We'll never see anything like that again, You're talking about a guy who he didn't finish his career, right? Because we tend to turn off the Wizard Jordan years, right? But for the story,
he's still a 20-point a game scorer in those Wizard years, which is an elite NBA player. If anyone steps on that court and averages 20, you're an all-star. So let's be clear on that.
That's fair. But I'm just talking about the moment, right? He pushes Byron Russell to the side, hits the shot, leaves the arm up. It was magical. Everything about it was magical. What Brady did yesterday was magical. But I think trying to compare athletes across different sports, it gets tricky, Brady's job is largely contingent upon 10 other people on the field with him at that time doing their job to get some type of success. If one of those linemen don't block, Brady can't get that pass off. Jordan comes from a different type of sport where it's just 5-on-5, so he can control the pace of the game and do things on his own nature or on his own pace to actually dominate and win games,
And to that point, the Tampa Bay defense that dominated Kansas City and shut down Patrick Mahomes and the most explosive offense in today's NFL. They locked them down. Brady had no parts of that, which is fine. Yeah. He's not supposed to. Michael Jordan, on the other hand, when he was playing against teams, he would lock up or play or defend a Clyde Drexler, be defending against a Charles Barkley or an elite player on the other side. So that defense, like I was thinking earlier, it's like if Tom Brady was also Deion Sanders and locking up an elite wide receiver, then, okay, maybe you can start to have a conversation of just the full dominance of what Jordan had, but it's just apples to oranges in my opinion.
And I think even if you want to force yourself to compare across sports, it's not Brady versus Jordan, it's Brady versus LeBron. Like that, to me, that's even more blasphemous that they put Jordan in that conversation,
I'm not surprised you found a way to weave LeBron into this.
180. What's that?
Matt, speaking of the Super Bowl, leading up to the Super Bowl, we had Britt Reed, assistant coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, and Antonio Brown. They both had, their share of troubles in the past. Do you think that the NFL and the reporters or the media allows Black players in particular to reinvent themselves or get a second chance when they fumble?
Matt, before you even answer that, man, Vernon, I'm reading an article last week. Antonio Brown, the man is happy to be alive, back in uniform, back on the field, and damn sure ecstatic to be at the Super Bowl. This guy's writing this article, going through the litany of things that we all know he's done, and asking once again for forgiveness. And I'm like, this is crazy. The guy, and he basically says to the man, listen, I'm here to stay focused on the game and not to bring attention to myself, but to stay focused on my job and support my team. And the guy basically started to, he in his article took the perspective that Antonio wasn't truly repentant for his wrongdoings, and we can't really tell if he's grateful, with this real snarky, sarcastic tone that I think white dudes don't have to deal with.
Well, under the cliche phrase, both things can be true, let me say this. Antonio Brown's year before, the 2019 Antonio Brown, that was one of the worst in terms of behavior for a player. Like it was just ridiculous. So the static he got, the flack he got, it was deserved. But I also think that, in 2020, he's behaved himself well. He's played well, and he's benefited from that. With the ultimate football reward. So I'm happy for him in the right now. Although as a Raider fan, I didn't appreciate how he was acting the year before. But my point is, he deserved his critique. He deserved his blowback, his flack. Now, with the white athletes, if you look like a Riley Cooper, or you brought up Brett Reed, and I don't know what Brett Reed's going to deal with in terms of the consequences of his actions. Although he did did he coach in the game, Vernon?
Nah, they sat him down. This actually happened last week on Thursday. They actually sat him down. He didn't fly or travel with the team to the Super Bowl. So, again, it happened fucking a week ago, and no one said anything about it. You know what I mean? Right. Had that been a Black athlete, that would have been a topic of discussion on every major sports show and outlet.
I just think the biggest example of this, to me, that's like just ludicrous, is Colin Kaepernick. You had the president of the United States rebuking Colin Kaepernick. You had people like fans and just people on radio shows, talk shows, hosts, talking about him as if he was a criminal and he should be, get out of the country. How dare you kneel? How dare you silent protest? How dare you do this? Like, they treated him as if he rolled up on the Capitol and broke in and tried to burn it down and kill people, instead of just silently kneeling. So you juxtapose how he's treated to, like I said, a Riley Cooper, or, he's the one that comes front of mind. But I just think there is an inequity in how the Black athlete is treated.
Why wasn't anyone asking Tom Brady about if he's going to soften footballs? And what about Deflategate? And what about is he spying on the other team in the locker room? He's famous for doing all these things, and all we heard is how golden and how fabulous he is.
And I agree with that, right? Because I do think that if it was, let's say, T.O., right? When T.O. was going through his shit with the media and giving them hell, they pull up, he's doing sit-ups in the driveway while he's, fighting for a better contract. I think because he was so productive on the field, they gave him a bit more of a pass, But a guy like Kaepernick, they thought, the NFL, I'm saying, they thought because he wasn't a primetime player anymore that led the San Francisco 49ers to the NFC Championship game, that we would forget that he was actually someone of importance to us, you know? And you go back through history. Michael Vick served 2 years in prison for some shit dealing with dogs, you know? And I'm not saying that he shouldn't have been reprimanded for whatever it was that he did, but I've seen far more heinous crimes committed from white players, namely Chad Wheeler for the Seattle Seahawks. He just beat his girlfriend beyond belief over the past 2 weeks. And this story has not received the same type of traction that any of these other stories dealing with black athletes have received. So to me, it's not just the NFL thing, it's America. America does not afford black people the same, I would say, margin of error that they would afford someone that's white. And that shit has to change, man.
Yeah, if America was a record label, the marketing and promotions plan on black folks is to criminalize them and make them look evil and dangerous, whereas that's not the same plan for they're not on that same time for white folks. So, all right, well, staying with the NFL and the whole Super Bowl theme, a few years ago, Jay-Z partnered with the NFL to oversee their halftime entertainment and also to help them oversee their social justice initiatives. So the question we have on the table here at Game Point is, has Jay-Z delivered on his NFL deal and kind of this promise to kind of take us from the kneeling? He thought we were past kneeling, and now he wanted some action. So what do you think of the actions that have come from this deal, Vernon?
I don't think we've done enough, right? As a people, I think it's great that he believes in theory that we're past kneeling, but we're not. You know, we're not past kneeling because it continues to happen. We're still having the same type of incidents repeat themselves. So in my opinion, when I look at the Super Bowl and what happened from that partnership, it's great to put a check in Meek Mill's pocket, who he can probably distribute that to his folks and keep some people employed, whatever he's doing with it. I saw the halftime show was produced by Jesse Collins Entertainment, who they've been largely responsible for most of the BET tentpole shows over the past 15 to 20 years. So shout out to Jesse and his team, like, great accomplishment. But to me, it's not just about entertainment and performative checks being written. So it's great if, you know, they're donating money over the course of 100 years. We're going to donate $10 billion or whatever the case is. But I need a better breakdown on what that money is actually doing on a day-to-day basis. Like, how are these checks being issued going to actually improve race relations in this country?
May I cut in?
Absolutely, man. It's a dance.
I just think it's a little unfair to minimize the financial contributions being raised. And I think, look, it's justifiable for people to have not really appreciated the way this transition from Kaepernick and his movement with the kneeling to Jay-Z and a partnership with the NFL, and even the way he said it at the time when he talked about we're past kneeling, that probably didn't help the optics of this. But I think if you look at, because I was reading up on this, in September, Alicia Keys, a Rock Nation artist, teamed up with the NFL to launch a $1 billion endowment fund for Black-owned businesses and communities.
That's cute.
Cute. Well, if you call it cute.
That's cute.
$1 billion, I think, is significant, but, you know, whatever. Also, $95 million has already been contributed since 2017 through the Inspire Change NFL initiative. Now, I don't know exactly.
What is the Inspire Change initiative? Explain to me what that is. What is that? Do they have a description as to what the program is and what the end result is supposed to be? Because, again, they're just writing a check. My soul is not for sale because you offered me a check. It doesn't go like that.
Asking what they do, and then you're telling me what they do. You're saying
I'm asking because I'm prefacing it and saying sometimes just because you donated the money, that doesn't mean that it's enough. And again, it's what you see the resolution as. For me, I don't think the resolution is let's toss money at it. I don't think that will ever be the resolution.
So, and I don't mean this as rude, but I would suggest you can go to the NFL site and read up on the Inspire Change initiative and see what they're doing.
Matt, I can help you out. The Inspire initiative encourages NFL players and people that work for the NFL to work collaboratively to support local social justice initiatives. 4 priorities: education, economic advancement, police and community relations, and criminal justice reform. That's what's needed to transition the hood.
Man, I'm
And
giving
if
you the
you have enough money to support it, to get it off the ground, to build the offices, to hire people, to get staff, to get lawyers.
Sally Hazelgrove. She operates a nonprofit company. Inspired Change donated $200,000 to Sally's Club, which is called the Crushers Club. They're a nonprofit based out of Chicago. Great, threw them a check. Twitter does their investigation. We find out Sally has been taking Black kids from the Chicago area that have dreadlocks in their head and making them cut their hair to participate in this program to prepare them for a professional world. Sally's white, by the way. So to me, if you're doing things like this as a Black Lives Matter program, but you're on social media forcing kids to cut their hair and making statements like all lives matter, and Jay-Z's Inspired Change initiative is donating to you, that's money that shouldn't have been spent. It should not have gone to them. So again, it's cute that on paper, this is what we're saying we're doing. But are we actually addressing what the real issues are? Sally isn't the only Sally that's getting a check from Jay-Z right now.
May I interject?
It's a dance.
Okay. While you call this cute, I think one could also call your critique, I don't know, easy, or like it's almost like you're throwing. It's like I don't know what I'm not about to be like, well, what are you doing personally, Vernon, and what am I doing personally? Because I'm not in a position to give $1 billion to anybody. But what I'm saying is, to me, it's easy to like kind of dismiss money's given, and it's also easy to call balls and strikes if you find a mistake like this Sally thing. Like, to me, it's like, I don't think you throw the baby out with the bathwater.
That's not a mistake. That's not a mistake. That's your company didn't do due diligence, and you prematurely donated money because it looked like it was okay. Going back to Kingdom Come, Hurricane Katrina on Minority Report, Jay-Z out of his mouth said, giving money is not the resolution. I donated my money, but I didn't give my time. So in reality, I did not give a dime or a damn. I just put my money in the hands of the same people that left my folks stranded. This is his words. These are his words. So to me, now that you're so enlightened and you want to help so many Black people now, what's different now from what you did in 2005 with Hurricane Katrina when you donated to the Red Cross? That money does not touch the ground. That money does not help the people that it actually needs to help. That money is not going to change what racism is in this country.
But a $1 billion endowment fund for Black-owned businesses could change some people's futures.
Matt, what could change some people's futures is if we stop pandering to continue to do business with these white people because they have the checkbook.
Okay, Vernon, what are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting
it seems like you're hinting around something that I don't think you're about to say what I think you're going to say, but let's hear it.
I think the real resolution is no different from what was necessary when we developed the Black Panther Party, when we developed Black Wall Street. I think we need our own. I think this country has shown us time and time again that we are not welcome here, even though we were forced to be here. So because that's the narrative, I don't think we need to continue to go to these people for acceptance and for checks when we control what our narrative and our history can be from this point. I don't believe that every relationship needs to be rekindled. And I think
if people are not financially empowered, like if the Black community as a whole, how are they going to be able to?
Matt, they're more black millionaire and billionaires than ever right now, Matt. Like, we don't have to start at the same level that the NFL is at right now. We can start from the ground level and build it up. I don't care where Patrick Mahomes plays football. It can be outside at a park in Queens. I'm going to tune in to watch him.
Where are you going to tune in on what network?
And pay him what salary? I agree with Matt. And you're talking about we can start from the beginning. How are you going to start from the beginning when guys are cutting $500 million deal? The startup isn't going to be able to attract that kind of talent.
The same way Jay-Z was able to go out and secure funding for Tidal when it went against Spotify and Apple Music. You're starting with your power, which is your talent roster. So if we get the talent, we can then go negotiate to get the checks. It's proven. Sean, McManus or McManus of the CBS sports team, they admitted that their ratings were taking a hit when they did their internal investigation because of Black people protesting. So to me, CBS wants to continue to expose their product to the masses. They're going to come knocking on the door with a check.
Vernon,
white people aren't the only people that could get checks. We can
Vernon,
get checks too.
Since you have a vision, and I'm not clowning. To me, because I feel like what you're saying, it seemed a little far fetched, and also I feel like it's easy for people to critique people doing stuff. I'm not against it. To me, if you put yourself out there, if you're a public figure, you're open for critique. I don't expect people to be perfect. I feel like his initiative or his commentary of like, I think we need to move past the kneeling and I want to see action. I'm not mad at that idea. Now, the actions he took, we can decide, do we think it was the right or the wrong move, or could it have been better or more? I don't know. I think it's something, and I don't think it should be scoffed at, sneezed at, or dismissed.
I'm not scoffing at it. I just think we disagree. And to me, don't let the check fool you. That's it. Like, that's just what it boils down to. The check doesn't fool me.
All right, Vernon, it's time to move to the NBA. I wanted to discuss what's been going on with AllStar Weekend. I know LeBron James has been vocal about not being pleased with the NBA's efforts to have an AllStar Weekend, even though we are in the midst of a pandemic. And I think there were talks during the break from last season to this season from the league that they were not going to do this, but then they reversed course, and LeBron is none too happy. Now, the point I'm trying to get at with this conversation, Vernon, is just basically LeBron as a player has the kind of power to where his voice, it does matter. I don't know that he can stop the league from doing it, but his voicing his displeasure has definitely been a big news item. What do you think about what's going on with the All-Star Weekend, and what do you think about LeBron using his voice to be this powerful spokesperson in the NBA?
I think this is carryover from what we just discussed with the NFL. To me, it's the players have more control now. They have more power. If LeBron James doesn't play in the All-Star game, they're going to lose a lot of viewers that voted for LeBron or LeBron loyalists. So to me, it's another case of we have the power to dictate our own terms, you know? And from what I understand or what I read, the Players Association was involved with this deal being finalized. So I don't know, and I know Chris Paul is the president.
And I think he's trying to do a social justice angle. It's like, I think a lot of the players, there's a lot of different opinions on this. Yeah. I think he was trying to do something positive, but LeBron played until the last game because he was in the finals. So I think the rest is a big deal for him.
Yeah. And I understand it. And to me, when I look at the All-Star game, I agree. Like, you have Giannis, a two-time MVP, who many idiots think is the best player in the NBA right now. He said himself, the big dog said, he's not sure that we should be doing this. I'm with him. Like, this is what influence and what power is. And I think going back to last week's episode, we're seeing players start to be more vocal about things that actually can be changed at the top level. I'm not saying there weren't Sharif Abdul Rahims in the past who took protests and shit like that.
Abdul Rauf? You talking about the guy that protested like Kaepernick in the NBA? Or
Yeah. Who protested the
flag?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that wasn't at the Michael Jordan level. Now we're seeing people at the Michael Jordan level make those types of stances, So I think it's just carryover.
Well, let me pivot and just discuss power in the NBA, because the NBA, the platform of the NBA, it's maybe the most powerful platform for Black athletes or for athletes, period. But and athletes have been using their power for a long time. You can go from Magic kind of being one of the beginning moguls, from player to business mogul, then Jordan with Brand Jordan and now owning the Hornets, and Shaq and Kobe and all the business deals they've done, and Kobe with his investments. But now LeBron has taken it to another level, kind of carrying on this legacy of like the man in the NBA, broadening that power base and that playing field. How do you feel about what LeBron's doing with clutch and clutch management? It's unprecedented in sports.
So clutch management is LeBron, not legally LeBron Sports Management Company, because there are rules that prevent you from being associated with sports management while you're still playing. But LeBron's one of his best friends, his original five, the Horsemen or the Four Horsemen, whatever it was, Rich Paul, he went ahead and started managing basketball players as they transitioned from college into the NBA, and was able to leverage LeBron's influence and LeBron's success to get some current players to drop old management and convert over to being managed by Clutch. The old guard doesn't want this happening. They don't want these young Black kids taking over where they get their money from. They want to keep us at bay and feed us the way they see fit. LeBron is breaking that mold right now in real time with his ideas and his team sticking to it and actually executing, man. So
to your point with that, not just with Clutch and Rich Paul, but like you said, his team, because with Maverick, they have the whole entertainment thing where they're helping to tell athletes' own stories. They're running things in multiple levels. On the court, he's running things as a player on a high, all-time degree, on as managing players with Clutch as the what's his production company?
Spring Hill Company.
Spring Hill, like the content making. So on multiple levels, he's doing things and just broadening the playing field for what's possible.
With the Spring Hill Company in particular, right? Like they negotiated their own terms for the deal to release and produce Space Jam: New Legacy. They secured a $230 million check using their production company. They didn't need anything else but their power and influence to go negotiate that. So that's why it baffles me when it's such a far-fetched notion that we can transfer that same power over into creating our own anything in America at this point. The companies don't care about anything besides their bottom line. As long as people are going to tune in, they'll pay for it. So again, this is what is pissing off all of the older white agents and sports owners and all this other bullshit in the way it's been, because now these kids are negotiating on their own terms, man. And it can transfer over into the NFL as well.
This weekend, I had a conversation with a lawyer. He's a black attorney out here in LA. And his company is focusing on client management from the legal, from the contractual side. Because we all know that most of these black athletes are signed to white management companies. And he's saying that day is over. He's like, we have more than competent black attorneys out here. His firm, for example, he says, I'm doing contracts at ABC, NBC. There's no difference between doing that contract and a sports contract. Doing a contract is doing a contract. And he said, to Vernon's point, that the white power brokers are shook because he's wait a second, just let me make my point, that day is coming when black athletes will be signed. The deals will be done through black management companies. The companies that, like LeBron's company, will be more influential. So it's like the legal is done by black. The management company is black. And it's not too far off where Vernon's like, right.
LeVar was actively trying to start his own. He was actively trying to do it. Time
out. I need you to slow down. And anyone watching this, you're saying LeVar to me like I'm not for people owning. What do you? Let's be very clear. That is a very don't ever try to frame. No, hold on. I want to be very clear. No one is suggesting we shouldn't own our own. The debate is what Jay-Z did in the earlier segment, was what he did significant, or is he living up to what he promised to do? So don't try to twist this to now. Your guy LeVar wants. I know he wants. I've been talking about ownership and giving him props for that since he's been in the news cycle.
Correct, but what
LeBron is doing by Vernon logic could be just considered as cute. Because you're not starting your own league. I don't agree with that. I'm saying it's all impressive and it's all great. But what I'm saying is,
I think certain steps are unnecessary, man. That's all. Like I just think, and I think going back to the LeBron thing, I think they are taking the necessary steps. Like they're not compromising. They're going to continue.
Are they launching their own league?
Matt, they're acquiring players right now. I don't know what the quiet plan is for 20 years from now, but I know right now they're disrupting the system. Jay did not disrupt the system. Jay took a check as an outsider. He's not in the league. He took a check as an outsider. That's it.
To me, making power moves, investing in your people, getting $1 billion fund to help black businesses, starting your own management firm, launching the big baller brand, I'm for all of it. But to me, it's like I feel like you're throwing flags and judging Jay with one side-eye glance, and with LeBron, you got your pom-poms.
Because LeBron didn't disrespect Kaepernick and his movement.
Oh, okay, so that's cool.
LeBron did
it. If you're upset about the way Kaepernick was disrespected, you should have just said that.
That's fair, Matt. You're right. I should have said something about the Kaepernick thing, even though it was obvious. But moving on, some more NBA hot off the press topics. Kevin Garnett retired Boston Celtic. Was he one-time champion, two-time champion?
One time.
Well, yeah, I was being facetious. But he did an interview with the New York Times where he spoke about his generation of basketball players and whether or not they'd be able to play in today's game. And he said, quote, I don't even know if the guards from 20, 30 years ago were playing this time right here. It's creative, it's competitive, it's saucy, you'll get dropped. A motherfucker will cross you over and break your ACL these days. The game is in a great place. How do you feel about Kevin Garnett, one of his generation's fiercest competitors, making statements like that to big up this generation's game?
I mean, I think personally it's a little bit extreme on the giving props to the younger side, and then you'll hear other athletes extreme on the over giving props to the older side. I think, to me, the truth is in the middle. It's nuanced. Great players from the 80s, great players from the 90s, great players from the 2000s, great players from the 2010s. If you're a dominant player, if you're a great player, I've seen skilled, amazing players from past eras that I think would do just fine in this era, and I've seen players from this era that would do fine in eras past. So I think maybe he's trying to prop up this new generation.
Nah, Matt. See, I think you're adding your spin to the opinion, or to the statement rather. Like, you're entitled to have your opinion, but he didn't say anything about great players. It's just a general statement. It's just a sweeping statement. It's not specific to the Michael Jordans, the Shaqs, the fucking Kobe's, or the Allen Iversons, or those guys. I don't think anyone will be foolish enough to say that those guys.
Put it in your words. What is the point that he was making?
The point that he was making is across the board, and I make this point quite often, like, a lot of that shit wouldn't be happening right now if these players were thrown here. I don't think a guy like John Stockton, who was one of the top point guards in his game during that time, would be able to compete with Chris Paul, John Wall, Russell Westbrook. I don't think that he would crack that top 5 in today. And that's what I take from the statement. I take that a lot of those type of players who were maybe even 1B. I'm not saying that they were like, level 2 players, but 1B players. They wouldn't be able to cut it in what today's era is. And that's what I took it as.
Well, okay, let me offer a little pushback on this. I think there's a little racial edge or chip on our shoulders when we view John Stockton and his short shorts. Oh, he couldn't hang with personally, I think we've just seen in recent years Steve Nash be an all-star and an MVP in since the 2000s began.
In that era, that KG era, that he's saying that they wouldn't be able to play in right now. Yes, that era.
Nash is the precursor in a lot of ways to what Steph Curry's doing. I mean, I think Curry's a better version, but in terms of the percentage, the 50-40, the 40.
Matt, stop it. Matt, we're not going to say that. They are light years apart, Matt. You're talking about Steph Curry, who he is the greatest shooter the game has ever seen. That Infinity Stone alone unlocks limitless possibilities for what his game can be. Steve Nash is a facilitator. Like that, there's no way you want to compare those two together and make them in the same class. Like, no, he's not Steve Nash.
Steph Curry took what Nash did and took it to a whole nother level. If you look at Trey, what's the guy in Atlanta? Trey.
Matt, the thing is what this KG actually he highlighted this. He said what Steph is doing, being able to pull up from the logo at the percentage that he's shooting that from. This is not Steve Nash hugging the three-point line, trying to make a straight-on shot. This is unguardable now, Matt. It's unguardable.
You're not listening to what I'm saying. I'm not saying they are clones. I'm not saying they play the exact same way. I'm saying there's a lot of similarities to their game. And if Steph Curry can be an MVP and dominate in this era, I think Steve Nash would be a damn good player in this era.
Matt, Nash is a thief. He stole MVPs from Kobe Bryant. He is not going to cut it at the same level that he cut it at in today's era, Matt. He's a baby. He's barbecue.
Doesn't it only stand to reason that in every generation, the generation that follows is a little better because it built on the shoulders of the preceding generation? And when you take into consideration today's athletes, the preparation, the facilities that are available, the coaching that's available at a much younger age, doesn't it just stand to reason
Yes.
that Steph Curry is playing at a completely different level than
Absolutely.
Stockton? Like, what would Anthony Davis be like against Kareem? Like, don't you think Anthony Davis would crush? Like, look at these 7-foot guys dribbling from court to court. I'm just asking the question of, doesn't it make sense that each generation will build on the shoulder of the previous generation?
The game is at a different point right now. You could not shoot from half court back in the day and not get benched. It wasn't possible. Now Steph Curry is shooting from half court in the flow of the offense and making it. It's a different game. He's a better shooter. He's a better basketball player. Arlington, to go back to your point, you're correct. It is logical that the game would evolve. Only when you're talking to older players from the older era is that theory tossed out of the window. They're the only ones that say, well, no, they wouldn't have made it in our era. Kobe wouldn't have made it playing ball in the 80s. LeBron wouldn't have made it playing ball in the 90s because of the physicality. To me, that's what started this war. This war wasn't started by the young kids who were out there doing their thing. We're not looking at them old niggas. We sit here playing our game right now. The Paul Pierces, the Charles Barkleys, the Shaquille O'Neals, all of those legends from those old eras are the ones that have continuously diminished the game that we are enjoying today.
You got mad. All I'm telling you, all I'm telling you is that great players, like, to me, that's, you just made my point, is that the people from the old school that say new players couldn't play back then, to me, that's an overreach. People from the new school saying, oh, them old dudes couldn't play in our era, that's an overreach. If we're talking about, and you acknowledge the greats, we're not talking about the greats. So I think that's fine. To me, greatness is going to transcend. I think Steve Nash and John Stockton, although they're not high-flying, dunking point guards, they are super skilled, highly skilled point guards. And I guarantee you, both of those two dudes would be.
I agree with that. But there's a quote from Steve Kerr, who was on the championship Bulls team, playing starting minutes.
Shooting guard.
Yes. He admitted he would not make a roster in today's NBA, Matt. This is out of his mouth. I don't think he's being nice. I think he's looking at the floor and saying, there's nothing I could do with Bradley Beal, because I will be guarding him if I was going against the Wizards playing for the Bulls in this era. Like, to me, we have to go with the ones that are being realistic. Like, look at these, like, it's not a skill thing. To me, it's more of a physical stature, athleticism. We have more footage now. So a lot of these kids that commit, they can, from a cerebral standpoint, learn the game and think it better than what it was back then.
In the letter, KG said he can't play in this era. He was saying, I can't play with these guys.
That's cap. That's bullshit. He would be like an
I don't think he said he can't play. I think he said his era couldn't play.
Which is
doesn't that include him? He's excluding himself from his era? That doesn't make sense.
I don't think he's saying him. I think he knows his skill set, man. He played in this era. He wasn't in the 80s playing basketball. Like, he played against a lot of these people and dominated.
Did he play in the Curry era?
Yeah.
The Kevin Durant era?
Curry was there, but Curry wasn't Curry. LeBron was there, but LeBron was a different LeBron. Like, you know, he's played against Kobe. He can play against these kids right now.
Since you guys have been going at it like the Brooklyn Brawlers, let's just add a little love to this. So I'd like to know, what did you guys love this week?
What I love this week is actually from the Super Bowl. There was the Viola Davis video that gave props to the players who integrated football. It started with Fritz Pollard, the first black player, and he also was the first black coach. But then the NFL switched gears and they decided they didn't want black players in the league anymore. So it was like another 13 to 15 years later before a black player actually got to play in the NFL again. It was just before Jackie Robinson came in, and it was Kenny Washington who integrated the league. And the video Viola did, I thought was pretty dope. So that made me happy this week. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, when I saw the Viola video, I felt the same way, Matt. You know, that I think with her and how like strategic she's been with everything that she signed on to do, I think, you know, that's power, you know, like that's understanding what representation means. And I think they nailed that part of it, you know?
Agreed.
Invisible No More, I agree with you guys, was an amazing doc. And the interesting thing is that Kenny Washington was signed almost 6 months before Jackie Robinson. But that was that. So let's move forward with the 24-second shot clock. Matt, 24 seconds. Make it good.
I want to focus on, it is Black History Month, and the Negro Leagues has been recognized by Major League Baseball for all of their records and accomplishments and statistics. So players like Josh Gibson and the legendary Satchel Paige, who played till he was like 56 years old. That's a little older than Tom Brady and LeBron. So, they've been doing that for a minute. But so prop to the Negro Leagues, the stats, and recognizing our history in Major League Baseball. That's it for me.
I caught your jab, but I want to take my 24 seconds. I got two things that's been on my mind. I think everyone should check out American Skin by Nate Parker. It's available on Prime, I believe. And the second thing is Jay-Z recently announced that he's partnering with the TPCO Holding Group Corp as a parent company. They're a white company, but they're going to give $10 million to minority-owned, Black-owned cannabis businesses. I think that's great. That's perfectly within his rights. There are no victims being disrespected or no additional folks being disrespected like he did Kaepernick. So that's my 24-second shot clock.
All right. Well, that was cute. I appreciate that, Vernon. But anyway, it's game over. Tune in next week for more Game Point. I'm Matt Smith.
And I'm Vernon Tucker, and I won't sell you out when someone presents a check to me, Matt.